Your phone buzzes on the counter. You already know before you look. -$11. Not a warning, a fact. You blink at it like blinking might change the number. It doesn't. Then a second buzz. Tyler. New sneakers. Still in the box. Caption. Treat yourself, man. You don't reply. Here's what nobody tells you about that $11. The bank isn't looking at your balance. It's looking at your tier. And your tier decides how fast someone answers the phone, how many fees disappear, how a total stranger says your name. There's a second ledger. This one, they never show you. Stay with this, because by the end, you're going to see exactly which page of that ledger you're sitting on right now, and the one thing that actually moves you to the next page, before the bank decides to move you there for you. You do the math nobody wants to do at midnight. $11 turned into $35, $35 turns into a bounce subscription, and that turns into another fee, $25 this time, because the system doesn't wait for you to catch up, it just keeps charging you for falling behind. You call the number on the back of the card. Hold music, 3 loops of it, a voice finally answers, reads from a script, tells you the fee can't be reversed today. You ask for someone else. They say someone will call you back within 48 hours. Nobody calls back. Friday, you walk into the branch anyway. The teller looks at her screen before she looks at you, and something in her face changes. Not anger, something colder. Careful. You watch yourself stop being a person on that screen and start being a category. A number with a risk score attached to it. You leave without saying what you came to say. Monday, you go to work like nothing happened, because nothing did happen. Not to anyone else. You eat lunch at your desk instead of the place down the street, not because you decided to save money, but because you did the math in your head before you even stood up. Your coworker asks if you want to grab food after. You say you already ate. You didn't. Hunger like that isn't loud, it's quiet, and you've gotten good at performing full. Here's the part that took you years to understand. The fee was never really about the $11. The fee was the bank telling you which ledger you were on, and on that ledger, being short once is treated the same as being short always. Weeks later, your balance holds at $300 for almost 2 weeks straight. It's the longest it's stayed positive all year. You don't tell anyone. You just watch the number, the way you'd watch a candle in wind. Tyler texts again. He upgraded his phone. 0 down, he says. They basically gave it to me. You type out a reply, then delete it. There's nothing to say to a man who thinks 0 down means free. The maintenance fee still hits your account, $12, quiet, automatic, the same fee that's been draining you since the $11 month. You don't have the $1,500 the bank wants you to keep just to make it stop. So it doesn't stop. You apply for a credit card anyway. They offer you a secured one. Give us $300, they say, and we'll lend you back your own money at 24% interest. You read the offer twice, certain you're misunderstanding it. You're not. You don't take it, which means when the transmission in your car starts making a sound you don't like, there's no plastic to put it on. You take the bus for 6 days straight. Your manager doesn't say anything. He just looks at you a second longer than he used to. You start checking your balance the way other people check the weather. First thing, before your feet even hit the floor. $311, $280, $302. It moves like a tide you can't control, and every check feels like bracing for something. The bank doesn't see $300 as progress. The bank doesn't see $300 at all. If any of this sounds familiar so far, a like helps this actually reach people living the same math you are right now. Costs nothing, takes 2 seconds. Somewhere around $2,000, without you doing anything different, something shifts. Not in your account, in the way the bank looks at it. Your direct deposit lands every 2 weeks now, same amount, same day, 6 months running. It's the first thing about you the system has ever found interesting. The maintenance fee disappears. Nobody tells you why. You check your statement 3 times to be sure it's real. The same fee that quietly drained you for years just stops existing. And the only thing that changed is a pattern the bank could finally sell to somebody. The credit offers change too, real ones this time. unsecured, a limit of $2,000, no collateral required. The same institution that turned you down 8 months ago is now mailing you your name in foil lettering, like you became a different person overnight. You didn't become a different person, the number did. You apply for a small loan too, $5,000, to fix the transmission you'd been ignoring for months. Approved in 2 days. The rate isn't great, but it isn't the 24% either. The process works the way the commercials always promised it would, and for a moment, you let yourself believe the worst part might actually be over. You walk into the branch, and the teller says good morning before you reach the counter. Not warm, not the way she'll greet you later. Just recognition, service without effort, the middle setting most people live on for their entire lives. The bank doesn't respect you at $2,000. It just stops ignoring you. On the second ledger, that's the first page where your name is actually spelled right. By $12,000, you open the app one morning and notice your credit limit changed on its own. $4,000 became $9,000. You didn't ask. Nobody asked you. The bank just decided you were worth more rope. The next call isn't automated. It's a person. Your bank has assigned you what they call a relationship banker. He says his name twice, gives you a direct line, asks about your goals, your timeline, wants to schedule a short call to review your accounts. The same institution that put you on hold for 40 minutes at $11 negative just phoned you first thing on a Tuesday. He asks if now's a bad time. Nobody has ever asked you that before. Calling about money. You say no, it's fine, and mean it more than you expected to. A fee shows up on your statement, $32, unexplained. You send one email. 3 hours later, it's reversed. No form, no script. Just a reply that says, already handled. Tyler calls to tell you about a truck he's leasing. 0 down again. You listen, say that sounds fun, and don't mention the $12,000 sitting quietly in your account. Because on the second ledger, the loudest guy in the room is rarely the one moving up a page. If you're the type who quietly checks their balance instead of announcing it, comment the number that changed everything for you. I read every one, and it usually ends up shaping the next video. At $60,000, the bank starts calling you a preferred client. The word shows up on your statements, on the welcome screen, in the email signature of the man who now handles your account. You didn't earn the title. The number did. Your relationship banker becomes a real person to you now. A man who remembers you mentioned your sister moving to Denver 9 months after you said it once, in passing. He emails you on your birthday. Not automated, written. You walk into the branch, and someone with an office and a nameplate stands up to greet you. They walk you past the line everyone else is standing in. The same line you used to stand in, back when $11 was the entire problem. A letter arrives, not for a card this time. A pre-approval for a mortgage, $400,000, before you've even started looking at houses. The bank decided what you could afford before you decided to want it. You call your relationship banker just to double-check it's real. He laughs, gently, and tells you it's very real, and that you should start thinking about neighborhoods, not numbers. It's the first time anyone in a bank has ever told you to think bigger instead of smaller. The second ledger doesn't ask you what you need anymore. At this page, it starts telling you. By $300,000, the bank stops being somewhere you go. It becomes something that comes to you. Your relationship banker stops emailing. He calls instead, and not to ask how you're doing. He asks when you'd like to meet the colleague who handles wealth management. That colleague drives out to see you, brings a leather folder full of printed reports, asks about your goals, your timeline, your estate, your kids you haven't had yet. 90 minutes later, he leaves a card and says he'll follow up. He never once tried to sell you anything. The selling already happened. You just didn't notice it happening. You're not being offered products anymore. You're being consulted. A product is something the bank wants you to buy once. A consultation is something the bank wants you to need for the rest of your life, and needing them is worth more to them than any single sale ever was. You mentioned this to Tyler once, in passing. He laughs and says, "Must be nice," then goes right back to talking about a boat he's thinking of renting for the weekend. You don't correct him. On the second ledger, the version of rich people actually notice isn't the one making noise about it. You used to think being noticed was the goal. Somewhere around here, you start to realize the opposite might be true. The version of you that gets left alone, that gets fees waived quietly and rates lowered without asking, might already be exactly where you wanted to end up. If you're not subscribed yet, this is a good moment. We put out a new one of these every week, and the next page of the ledger is coming. At $2 million, the language changes completely. It's not wealth management anymore, it's private banking. And those two phrases sound similar, but one of them is a service, and the other is a relationship. Relationships don't follow the standard rules, they negotiate their own. You don't have a banker now, you have a private banker, a title that means something very specific inside that building. He manages fewer than 20 accounts, and yours is one of them. He knows your kids' names. He knows about the foundation you mentioned wanting to start, once, over coffee, back in March. The rate on your mortgage isn't published anymore. It's negotiated. Paperwork that takes a regular customer 2 weeks gets handled in 2 days, because somebody, somewhere, was told exactly whose account this is. You walk into a branch you've never set foot in before, and they already know your name before you've signed a single form. Not because you're famous, because you're positioned. You exist inside a system that now prioritizes you before you've even asked it to. You're invited to a small dinner the bank hosts once a quarter. A handful of clients, a guest speaker, a view of the city from an angle you've never seen it from. Nobody mentions money the entire evening. Money is the room itself, not the conversation happening inside it. On the second ledger, the bank doesn't just serve you at this page, it bends for you. If a video like this is the kind of thing that actually helps you think differently about money, share it with one person who needs to see where their own page really sits. At $20 million, you stop having a banker altogether. You have a relationship, and the difference between those two words is the difference between every page below this one and this page itself. Your account is a named line in someone's performance review. Losing you would cost people their careers. The bank doesn't compete for you anymore. It quietly organizes itself around never losing you in the first place. The deals brought to you aren't from a menu. They're written for one person, and that person is you. The chief investment officer asks your opinion on where markets are heading. The head of private banking flies out just to ask what people like you will expect next year. Things don't get applied for anymore, not by you. Things simply arrive, already shaped around the fact that you exist. An investment nobody else has heard of yet. A seat at a table with no name on the door. The room only opens because you're the reason it exists in the first place. You are, without ever meaning to be, shaping the very same institution that once charged you $35 for being $11 short. If you want the next one of these built around a specific situation, tell me in the comments. That's genuinely where most of these topics come from. Somewhere, right now, someone's phone just buzzed on a counter. They already know before they look. -$11. Not a warning, a fact. They blink at it like blinking might change the number. It won't. Their phone buzzes again. A friend. New sneakers. Still in the box. Caption. Treat yourself, man. They don't reply. They call the number on the back of the card. Hold music. 3 loops of it. A voice reads from a script and tells them the fee can't be reversed today. Friday, they'll walk into a branch too, and a teller will look at her screen before she looks at them, and something in her face will change. Not anger, something colder. Careful. They'll leave without saying what they came to say, the exact same way you once did. They don't know yet that nothing about the system is broken. It's working exactly the way it was built to work. The same institution that will one day fly someone out just to ask their opinion on the market is, at this exact moment, charging that person for not having enough. You were the same person on every page of that ledger. The only thing that ever changed was which page the bank decided to read first. The second ledger doesn't wait for you to notice it. It's already been keeping score.